Well, hello everybody. As you can see in front of me, I have a bunch of parts sitting there. All of these parts are for a computer build that I am going to be doing. And, well, let's get started. First off here, we have a Western Digital Caviar Green 2TB hard drive. SATA cable. A Creative 52x CD drive, a cheap Chinese CPU cooler, an Orion 585 watt power supply, a Pioneer DVD CD writer, a Zotac GeForce GTS 450, and last but not least, the Asus P5L MX motherboard. And I also have a Pentium D840 right here. Yes, I took it out of one of my other computers, so I still have heatsink grease on it. And I also have, once I get it unwrapped, most of this stuff is, well, some of it is anyway, second-hand parts. I just wanted another computer that could play games pretty well. A 5.25 media dashboard. This is new. And for the case, it will be this case right here, this white one. Now, it does not have a Core 2 Duo in it. It never did. I just put that sticker on it. This actually had an old Pentium 3, as you can kind of tell. It's a fairly old case. And I'm just going to give it a new life. Alright, now with a clean and out of focus Pentium D840, we shall install it into the Asus motherboard. Installing it, you just want to line it up and put it in straight. There's two notches, which are here and here. And then you want to close the top cover and push down on the lever. This takes, I would say, a fair amount of force. A lot of people on YouTube say it takes an extreme amount of force. I say if you're putting an extreme amount of force on it, you're going to break something. So it takes some pressure, yeah, but it doesn't take enough. Anyway, next I'm going to mount the CPU cooler. It's got the Intel style clips. Let's zoom out a bit. Alright. And what's included in the package is some heatsink grease, some mounting hardware, the mounting ring, I guess you can call it, and of course the CPU cooler itself. Looks like copper, but it's actually aluminum. Now, they did not give you any instructions on this, so I guess this will also be a tutorial of how to put one of these together. Okay, you take these plastic things and you just put them in. They'll make a little click. Maybe you'll hear this one. Alright. And it's the same for all four. Going out of the camera here. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. It says 1156, I think. 1156 or 775. And I'm using a 775, so there's these little tabs. You just want to turn them all so they're at the 775 part. Now we just place it on. Every way it wants to decide to fit. minor technical difficulties. Alright, there we go, I guess. And you just push it on. There we go. They are all in. Now you want to take, whoops. Now you want to take these black things and you push them into of course, when you're trying to do it on camera, nothing goes like it's supposed to. Alright, so they go like this. What these essentially do is they lock it so that it can't pop out on you unexpectedly. Just to finish putting these in, let's zoom in on the last two. Okay, you just take these things, which are terribly out of focus, and yeah, my hand is getting in the way. Just push them in. Last one, over here. Okay, they seem to all be in. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is mount the CPU cooler onto the motherboard before I install it into the case, because that just makes life a lot easier. To do this, we are going to try and clean that up first, so I'll be right back. Okay, so to do this, you want to take your CPU cooler. In my case, I'm going to mount with the wire on this side, so it takes up the wire to go to the fan header. And you first want to, now this is for this particular cooler. Different coolers may vary. I'm just going to go over here. So yeah, different coolers may vary. Now, this requires a lot of force. In fact, okay, I got this side latched on, so now all I have to do is pull this down, and there it's on. Now, I do not know if you'll be able to see that, but this cooler does warp the board a bit, pretty much like Intel coolers. It's using the same kind of setup. So now I just have to plug the fan in. Do its header over here, 4-pin fan header. Alright, that is done. So now it's time to install it in the case. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I install the motherboard is I'm going to install this 80mm fan into its little fan caddy here. I don't know if I've ever seen a case like this before, but it fits perfectly in there. Don't even have to use any screws to hold it in. And then you just take it and you install it here. Makes really a nice design for case fan installing. That's the fan installed. Okay, so with the case, or I should say with the motherboard tray out of the case now, just gotta unscrew the screws for the standoffs. This is an older case, so it does need these additional plastic ones. Alright, so now we're going to take our motherboard and line it up. Make sure everything's lined up there. Alright, now we're going to take our standoffs that are screwed in. One. Two. of course, it's the one cutting into the ram slot here. And of course, my screwdriver is kind of magnetic. Just careful to move that over there. We will, I guess, start by removing the plastic things here that just pop out. Every one of these drives will be occupied, or drive bays, and I am guessing the best bet would be to start with the media dashboard, because this is going on top. Put all of its sensors through. I hope I didn't break that sensor. Now this actually came with screws. Since these screws are a little bit different from my other ones, I have to use them. I'm going to do all one side first, and then I'm going to switch over to the other side. Next, I will install the Pioneer DVD writer that I got from a flea market. It is brand new. I paid $20 for it. And here it is. I have had this opened. I actually made sure it worked. And that just goes in next alongside it. I guess they want it away, so that's the way it is. Flush here. Good. Of course, until I start tightening it, and it goes not so flush, but we're doing pretty good so far. This is my first computer build. Alright, that's that done. Now I will be installing the third drive going in up there. The Creative CD reader. It's not a DVD reader, it's just a CD reader. Alright, I will be using these a little bit larger drive screws because that's what this CD drive takes. It'd be nice if they made them all the same size, but can't win them all. And of course I'm having difficulties here because it's on camera. Of course, what's on camera never works, so bear with me. Also, apparently this drive uses two different size screws, which is not really a bad idea. Is that it? More than that over the screw that you want to use. And of course, I need to cross pattern, so I can't use that one. I use this one. Oh well. It's not like it's that important anyway. Alright, so I'm going to screw in this side of the hard drive as well, which is Western Digital 2 terabyte. This goes down here at the bottom. This hard drive is pretty much perfect for this case because this case doesn't have much in the way of cooling for the hard drive. With everything else in this case, that takes one side screw. Now that's all the screws on this side put in. Now we're going to flip her over to the other side and do the same. Alright, so now we gotta finish screwing in this side. The reason I bought the media dashboard for the front is because, as you may have noticed when you saw the case, there's no front USBs or front sound. Alright, so now I'm going to install the menu. Finish screwing that in. I made this side to look on the same side for unknown reasons. Nope, never mind. Finishing off the hard drive here, and then we can install another board again. Alright. mounted motherboard. Oops. And now we flip her upside down. No, I did not get an I/O shield with this motherboard. But what do you expect? Doesn't matter. The ports on the back won't be really used anyway. And it's just as simple as that. Now you just gotta screw in these 4 screws. I don't know much about the newer cases, but as far as I'm concerned, they all should have this kind of design, because if I had an I/O shield in there, it would make life a lot easier. Because you don't have to angle, you don't really have to struggle to get the board in like you do on some cases that I've seen when people are building them. As far as I'm concerned, this one is pretty easy. It's not the best of cases though. Like the slots for the PCI cards and such, they're just flimsy. Basically bend out tabs, you just gotta bend them and they come off and you can't put them back in. But other than that, this case is pretty decent. Now the hard drive is SATA, so we'll start with that. I've got one that's already open, because I just want to see the length of it. As you can see, it's fairly long. We'll plug that into the number 1 SATA port. Cable management is going to be a little bit tough with this case, because the way the power supply plugs in and everything isn't really the best of ways. Let's put it at that. Floppy drive. Yeah, well, we'll plug that in now too, I guess. Let's get all these cables out of the way first. Or, actually I'll plug these SATA cables in. These ones will plug into the 3 and 4 slots. I might add in a second drive, like a different second boot drive or second hard drive. Yeah, I guess it'll the same thing. Well, I think we get an SSD, but I'm not quite satisfied with the performance on a hard drive. Alright, let's those 2 cables in. Let's try and rip them back into there like that, which is not going to happen. Okay, my IDE cable here. Plug in the Pioneer to the master, and the Creative to the slave. And we'll just tuck that into the empty bay up there for now. This one plugs into the blue connector down here. I'll show you after I get it plugged in. Right here. And the floppy drive plugs into the black one. I will also push the cable up into that empty drive bay as well. That is off camera. And this one just plugs into here. And that is pretty much all I can hook up until I get the... Well, I guess I could install the memory RAM. I will be using Dell DDR2 RAM. Basically just stuff I have lying around, because this is a bit of a budget build, I guess you could say, with decent performance. It's definitely not the newest thing out there, but it's definitely not the oldest thing either. The other board that was in this computer actually died of faster plague, so I'm just had the case sitting around. 2 gigs, both stick at 1 gig each. And so, all I can really put up. Alright, well, one thing I forgot to do, you may have noticed early in the video, is I forgot to put the heatsink grease on. Now, it's just a good thing I noticed, but that means I gotta take the cooler off, which isn't too difficult. And I will be using the stock heatsink grease. Well, the stuff that came with it. Just because, as I saw on a YouTube video once, this is the stuff that the CPU cooler is actually designed to work with. Alright, so I finally got that heatsink grease open. Indestructible packages. So I'm going to apply it here. You may not be able to see this, but now we just gotta re-put it on the cooler. Re-put it on. Put it back on again. That's gonna give me troubles. Alright. The CPU cooler is on with its heatsink grease this time. So we're good to go. Now I will be back once I pull up the ASUS website for this thing. So, give me a minute. Alright, so I'm going to hook up one of the USBs to, well actually I'm going to hook up both of them. I will not be using the FireWire because this motherboard doesn't support it. And I have no use for it either, so it's going to be hooking up the USBs. Now I hope that the graphics card won't interfere with this. ASUS was not the smartest when they decided to put it in between the PCI slots. And I gotta find my other USB. Now these cables are a bit short. I don't know if I'll be able to route it. I can route it like that. Okay, and this one plugged into the other USB header, which is right here. Alright, that's the USBs done. Audio plug, which is also pretty short, goes to the green plug. And now we're hooking up the front panel connections. So, the first thing to do is move the IDE cables out of there, the serial ATA cables out of the way. We'll start with the speaker. Goes right here. I don't even know if this thing's let's take out that. This is a power switch. The power switch goes here. Reset switch. And the power LED. And hard drive light goes to this third one here. And the hard drive light goes over here. Onto these three down for the reset switch. Alright, I am going to hook the fan up to my media dashboard on the front so I can control it myself. It has a 3-pin connector, which I will route behind the hard drive. Oh yeah, these cables will be like just long enough, especially the audio. That one can actually lay down in the slot, so I do not think there will be any problem to the graphics card. Yeah, so that would be that. Now, the graphics card. Let's install it. power supply will be last because you'll see why in a minute. Alright, here's the PCB. Black. There is the connectors for your monitor, the cooler, and the heatsink, I guess. You can see down there. And we will just try to install this without interfering with everything. And it fits in the glove. Fits nicely in there. Okay, that's good. That's good. I don't want those cables sitting on top of the motherboard like that, so I'm going to have to pull it out underneath the card. And of course, the audio cord is a bit too short, so you'll have to run under there. But really, when you think about it, no cord's too short when you run it away. So, we now just have to plug it in. The little thermistor thing for the CPU I will put in somehow. Where, I'm not quite sure. Probably somewhere around here. Put the thermistor underneath the heatsink for the CPU there. Didn't put it underneath. All that's left is this Orion power supply. The 4-pin connector for the CPU plugs in up here. I'm going to plug that in before I put everything else in. And I probably should have plugged it in before I put the CPU in. Or not the CPU, the CPU cooler. Because that would have made life a little easier. Long cables on this power supply, like longer than that cheap Delta Power, which is, this will be for the hard drive and the floppy drive. So let's plug that in. Oh, that new smell. That new smell. Tight connection, which is good. Alright. And for the floppy drive, yeah, I guess I could use that. Keep everything a little more tidy. And then, do I have one that has two? Yes, I do. Okay, and then for this one, we'll have this run this. We'll just plug in the power to the power plug. Okay, we'll just tuck this up in here where there's some room. Take the other one, plug it into the CD drive. And I still got some connectors left over. Now we take our 24-pin connector here, and we will attempt. We'll do it. We'll plug her in here to the 24-pin connector. Don't worry about that, that's just the one standoff going through the back of my case again. It's just a cheap standoff, it's not a very good one. Alright, that's plugged in. Oops. It's a good thing I stopped it, and yet I still put it in the same spot. Now we take our 6-pin for the graphics card, and that just goes in like so. Now this is why cable management's going to be a bit of a pain in the for me. I don't even know if this is the way the screws line up. No, it goes the other way. Okay, so got to attempt to keep the the cables out of the way of the CPU fan. This is a downside of this case. Alright, now I gotta start screwing this in. I hope everything's gonna work, because if I have to do anything, I basically gotta take this power supply out. Get one screw in, tightened up, so that it will help me put the rest of the screws in. This power supply does have over voltage protection and all those goodies. Oh yeah, I still should screw in that graphics card. Just put the other 2 screws in now on camera, and you can kind of get a good first look at the back of my computer here. Okay, now the last part is to lay it back down and screw in the graphics card. Alright, everything's hooked up and hopefully working. Just make sure that there's nothing in its way. Lots of cable mess up here, but like I said, cable management is a real pain in the ass for this case anyway. Plus these cables aren't very flexible. So what I may end up doing is, this is one of those cases where a modular power supply would be very, very nice. But I did not have the money to spend on a modular power supply. Alright, here goes nothing. Listen how quiet that thing is. And it seems to have posted. Yep. It will try to boot Windows because, uh-oh, we've got a problem. Never mind, date and time's not set, that's not a big deal. F2. Alright, it does have Windows on it, but this is from because it was in my other computer. So we'll just attempt to boot it up. See what it does. I'm going to take the camera off tripod because it will amaze me if the sound actually works, which I'm not expecting it to because there's no drivers for this motherboard installed. It seems to be working, so I will come back after I have reinstalled Windows. Surprisingly, Windows actually decided to boot up on all new hardware, so see you then. Actually, there's no Alright, so it's a few days later now, and the computer itself is in its spot where it's going to live. There's another look at the front. So now I'm going to turn it on, and we'll see the boot up time. All the drivers are now installed. I don't have Windows 7 working. It is showing that it's there, but I still have to install it. For some reason, the Windows 7 installation is giving me a blue screen when it starts up. And there it is, all started up. I got a few programs installed. This computer is very fast. Faster than my old one anyway. So, I think first I'll just... Alright, so I'm just going to load up a game here. Battlefield Bad Company 2. Just because it's the most graphically intensive game that I have. And you'll be able to see a little bit of gameplay and how bad I actually am at playing this game. As I've mentioned before, this computer is running a Pentium D840 and a GeForce GTS 450 manufactured by Zotac. As you can see, the performance is pretty good. All the graphical settings are maxed out. All of them are set to high. Didn't mean to do that. I guess I'm just a bit used to some of the older Call of Duty games. just gonna skip the videos because, well, don't need to watch them. Alright, and just to show you the settings, they are all set to high, except vertical sync, because I probably don't have quite enough frame rates for that. There they are. Everything is maxed out. I do plan to get an Intel Core 2 Duo for this computer. But until then, I'll just run the PennyMD. I don't know. Yeah, nowadays it's the game. Alright. And I guess I'll show a Call of Duty game, just because it's rendered a little differently, and maybe it was a little more strained on the system. So, I gotta find the disc for it, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I found the disc for Call of Duty. Now, we will run it and see what it runs like. Okay, so I don't know if the video camera recorded the first part here of Call of Duty, because the battery went dead on me. So anyway, I'll just resume from where I am here. One more thing. Out of Call of Duty, or Battlefield Bad Company 2, or Call of Duty World at War, which one do you think has better graphics? Also, the graphic settings for this game are also set on high. So anyway, just to show you the graphic settings again. Resolution 124 by 768. Screen refresh rate 60 Hz. Aspect ratio auto. Anti-aliasing 4 times. Brightness is, well, that doesn't make any difference. Sync every frame, no. Dual video cards, no. I guess I should turn sync every frame to on. They probably look a little better. Shadows, yes. Specular map, yes. Ocean simulation, yeah. Dynamic footage, yes. Bullet impact, yeah. Number of corpses, small. I don't know if that really hampers performance or not. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this long video. And if I can get out of the game. We'll see you later.